Hi everyone, Heather here with astrologywithheather.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. This one is for Monday, May 20th, all the way through to Sunday, May 26th of 2019. And this week we have a really powerful aspect between Mercury and the Sun, just as the Sun is moving into the sign of Gemini. Yes, that's right, we're already into Gemini season. Time is just flying by. I'm already working on my Gemini season newsletter, and for those of you who are not aware, I do send out a free newsletter once a month where I talk about the astrology for each zodiac season, and I give a little brief written forecast for each sign. So if you want to get in on that, I always put a link in the description, to sign up for the newsletter. And always, if you do sign up for the newsletter, you get $10 off your first reading with me, which is something I always forget to tell you guys too. So if you want to get in on what I'm coming up with right now, you can totally get in on that and sign up. But anyway, so the Sun is moving into Gemini already. It's the end of May, or almost the end of May. And this time for Gemini season, as the Sun moves into the sign of Gemini, Mercury will also be moving into the sign of Gemini at the exact same moment, and they'll actually be coming into a conjunction as they're transiting into this new phase, into this new sign. And so as some of you might already be aware, Mercury is the ruling planet of the sign of Gemini, and so Mercury does really well in Gemini. It's its home sign. People are going to be thinking much more clearly. They're going to be much more communicative, much more outgoing, and much more willing to connect with people on an intellectual level. But this is also a really great time for socializing in general, with both the Sun and Mercury transiting the sign of Gemini. So having parties, going out and attending gatherings, connecting with people via communication, even over the internet, is going to all be favored under this influence. The other thing that's going to be happening though with this Mercury conjunction to the Sun is that it's going to become CAZIMI, where it's going to sit at the seat or the throne of the Sun for just a small moment of time, just a couple of hours. And this is going to be happening on Thursday morning here in the United States. And especially for those who are on the west coast of the United States, this is going to be especially powerful because it's going to happen, this exact conjunction between Mercury and the Sun, right at sunrise. So around 6:07 a.m. on the Pacific coast, there's going to be a sunrise with the Sun in an exact conjunction with Mercury. And so let me explain what this all means. I've talked about this a little bit before in previous videos, but when Mercury sits at the seat of the Sun like this, it's a time where we get enhanced clarity, where the energy of Mercury is elevated. This is a really auspicious time for important communication. This is a really auspicious time to get important insights, to have clarity of thought, to make clear decisions. And so if there's something, especially in the sign of Gemini, which rules our thought processes, our communications, it rules our intellectual mind. If there's something that we've been stuck on, that we've been trying to sort through on an intellectual level, a decision that we've been wanting to make that we can't really, we're having a lot of indecisiveness, we're having trouble really seeing things clearly and understanding the whole picture, this is a time where we can make much clearer decisions, where we can have these important conversations with people, and it can go much more smoothly. And so this is just for a small window of time. It'll be at 6 a.m., 6:07 a.m. exactly on the West Coast. Here, in the Rocky Mountain area, it's at 7:07 a.m. And if you account for your time zone, you can figure out exactly when this is happening, regardless of where you are all over the world. And this is an important time to sit and reflect, or again, to have those important conversations, because this is a very communicative energy. And so that energy is enhanced. Great for problem solving, great for getting that clarity that you've been seeking. And so this is going to be a really powerful influence this week. And especially, again, on the west coast of the United States, I love that it's coming exact right at sunrise. I would say wake up at sunrise, sit in meditation, watch the sunrise, and ask for Mercury's guidance, because Mercury is being enhanced, right? Ask for Mercury's insight, because this is a time when you can get that and really clear messages can come through. And so that's like the main event that's happening this week. There's not a lot of other energy going on here in terms of planetary transits. There's, the moon is kind of just shifting in and out of different signs. We just we're just coming off of the full moon in Scorpio, and so this is sort of a little bit of a wind down, where we're going to get clear on things, where we're going to start making decisions, where we can have those important conversations, and where we're moving into Gemini season. And Gemini season is a time where people become more playful. It's like everything is opening up, the weather is really nice, people are conversing with one another a little bit more, people are out and about in their immediate environments, in their neighborhood. You see people walking up and down the street, people are going to social gatherings. Like, this is a time where things start picking up, and we become more sociable and more connected on a grassroots level, mostly because of the change of the seasons, right? So this is where we're coming into summer, and things are starting to warm up, and we're starting to warm up in terms of our connections to other people. So it's a really nice time. And speaking of Gemini sun signs, since I'm about to be launching into the forecast for all 12 signs anyway, if you are a Gemini sun sign, your solar return yearly forecast is now available. The link is down in the description below. Anyone who has Aries, Taurus, or Gemini sun sign, your forecasts are available now to download. Over 2 hours long, plenty of detailed information about the most important influences that you're going to be facing for the year ahead. And this also includes PDF documents, supplemental materials that give specific timing and dates for when you're going to be experiencing the influences outlined in the videos based on your birthday. You don't need your birth time. All you need is your birthday, and you can benefit from this video. So this is really great for people who don't have birth times, and this is a really great gift for anyone who's a Gemini who's really interested in astrology. So you can take advantage of that. And I just finished my Saturn webinar, the Mastering Saturn webinar last week, and it went really well. If you want to pick up the replay, the link to do that is also down in the description below. And so let's get into all of this, you guys. We're going to go through each sign and talk about the energy per usual. Oh, and I wanted to pull up, I forget to do this a lot at the beginning, but I wanted to just pull up the chart here so you can see what this looks like with Mercury coming into this really close conjunction with the sun. It's coming out of this trine that it was making. Last week, in the past couple of weeks, we had Mercury and the sun both coming into really powerful positive aspects with that stellium of Saturn and Pluto. And so if we still feel stuck, if we still feel like we're trying to figure out how to sort through these energies, maybe this is a time where we can get some clarity. All right, and so let's start with Aries and Aries rising. For Aries, this is the time, oh, and I should mention before we even get into that, something I forgot to mention about Mercury when it's in a conjunction with the sun. During the time when it's not CAZIMI, when it's not at the throne, at the heart of the sun, it has to be within 15 minutes of exactness in a conjunction with the sun for it to be elevated. Outside of that exact conjunction, it's considered combust. And so that's when we start to see some of the more negative attributes of Mercury come out a little bit more so. And so dealing with the energy of Mercury becomes a little bit more difficult. And one of the things that I've definitely noticed in, my own life and in, working with clients and hundreds of people all over the world is that a couple different things happen here. When this happens by transit or when you have this in your birth chart, it indicates being prone to overthinking things, to having a mind and a nervous system that run on overdrive. So we're going to be thinking on overdrive in the spaces just before and just after this exact conjunction, where our minds can be racing, where our thoughts can be all over the place, where we can have a hard time getting clarity because we're thinking and overthinking and ruminating and playing and replaying conversations and lists and ideas in our heads, and it can be very hard to externalize that in a way that is productive. And so, if you're having this flight of ideas, if you're having too many thoughts, if your thoughts are racing, if you're feeling more nervous and more on edge at the start of this week, it might have something to do with this Mercury conjunction to the sun. And if this is the case, and if you're having a hard time pinning down pinning down your thoughts or making a decision or figuring out what to do with all of this information that's bouncing around in your head, that CAZIMI time period on Tuesday morning is going to be a really potent, important time for you to get that clarity that you're seeking. And so that's why I'm emphasizing this, because, you know, otherwise it's going to be a week where we might not see things as clearly because we're overdoing it on the mental plane. We're over-rationalizing, overthinking, over-communicating maybe, or there's too much communication. There's too much stuff coming in and it's hard to make sense of it all. We can feel more overwhelmed when Mercury is in a conjunction with the Sun, and that is a pretty prominent energy. And so I do recommend writing your ideas down, because you might have some good ones in there, and, you know, waiting until that time period. If there is something important that you need to think through or make a decision on or communicate to somebody, waiting until that time period on Tuesday morning, and then pulling the trigger or making that decision, or sitting in a space where you can absorb the information, where you can get that benefit from Mercury, where you can think things through a little bit more clearly. So now let's get into Aries and Aries rising. So for Aries and Aries rising, this Mercury conjunction to the Sun is happening in Gemini. You might have a lot of communication, information, emails, text messages, phone calls. You might be buried in paperwork. You might have a lot going on a mental plane that you have to deal with, that's coming through in a physical way through communication this week. And that time period on Tuesday is going to be especially important for you for decision making and for communication, because it's in your third house, which also rules communication. And so if you need to have an important talk or send an important email or an important message to somebody, thinking about that time period on Tuesday, that's going to be a better time where you're going to be much more clear on what it is that you want to say and how you want to say it. If you jump the gun and do it prematurely, you might have this energy of saying too much or not enough, or maybe you didn't think it all the way through, so your ideas are half-baked, or you've talked yourself out of the good ideas because you're thinking and overthinking it a little too much. And so you want to wait for that sweet spot where you can get that download, you can get that insight, or you can submit that paperwork that's really important or something along those lines. This is also a great time to connect with your community, to take some sort of short distance trip, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed. That can be a really great outlet. Just don't pile too much on, which there can be a tendency to do with this energy. You know, if you do take that short trip, don't go to the museum and to the hike and to this and to that and to the other thing and to that social gathering. Pick one thing. Take your time, make space, and go do that. And that's going to be a really good outlet for you to decompress and to experience more of the benefits of this energy instead of the busyness of this energy. All right, and for Taurus rising, this energy is happening with Mercury and the Sun in your second house of finance. And so at the start of this week, there could be an important decision that you have to make involving money or resources, or it could just be you trying to figure out how you're going to budget for an important purchase or something along those lines. Whatever it is that you're dealing with on a mental plane or involving communication around resources, money, you know, finances in general, this time period on Tuesday is a time where you can get some clarity. So you're going to have an overdrive of thinking about material possessions, material wealth, finances, and how you can create more resources for yourself potentially, or how you can utilize your resources more effectively in the future. And you might have too many ideas, you might have too many opinions coming in. Maybe you've asked for those opinions, but it's a little overwhelming. And so now's the time to sit with it and to allow that information to come with you and to flow naturally. And you'll get some really powerful insight on Tuesday about what the next steps are and what you should do moving forward with your financial plans. And then for Gemini and Gemini rising, this energy is happening in your sign. And so this is going to be a lot of communication directed toward you. And especially if you are a Gemini with your Sun conjunct Mercury, if you're a Gemini with your Sun within the first 5 degrees in the sign of Gemini. So anyone born at the start of this week with their Sun in Gemini is going to have the Sun conjunct Mercury in their solar return chart. And so if you have a CAZIMI, then you're going to have a really powerful year of new ideas, new thought processes, new inspiration, mental clarity. You're going to be very prolific in your communication. If you're a writer, you can write more. You can get recognized for your writing and for your innate intelligence and your gifts for curiosity and for fluency of speech. If you're not a writer, you can still utilize this energy very positively. This is a great year to connect with siblings, to connect with your community a little bit more. And if you have it, a little bit outside of that orbit, Cazimi, you're going to be having a year where you're going to have a lot going on mentally regardless. And so you're going to have a lot of new plans, a lot of new ideas. This might be a year where you're deciding to embark on a new educational pursuit, or you're just really thirsty and insatiable in your quest for knowledge. This could be a year where you're sort of thinking and overthinking things, where you might be running a little bit anxious because you have so many ideas and so many thoughts and so many decisions you feel like you have to make. And if you want to learn more about that, for those who have their sun in Gemini, you can absolutely do that. I did a 2-hour video that's available for only $12.99 down in the description below, all about your sun sign and the yearly forecast for you based on your solar return energy. So you can get that there. But for everybody else who is a Gemini or a Gemini rising, this energy is going to bring a little bit, I would say that this could be a little bit of a nervous energy because it is kind of all over the place. You might be thinking about one thing and then it doesn't hold on to your curiosity or to your attention very long, and then you're jumping to another thing and another thing and another thing. So you might feel very scattered at the start of this week. If that is the case for you, if you have too many things going on, too much information coming in, too many ideas floating around your head, too many sticky notes all over the place, too many books that are half read and half opened and half, all these ideas that are half baked, sit with this energy on Tuesday and you will get that point of clarity, and you'll be able to focus your Gemini energy and your Gemini curiosities in a way that's more appropriate, based on the insight that comes in. And so Gemini is already prone to kind of being all over the place. You want to know a lot about a lot of things, or at least a little bit about a lot of things. And so this enhances that. But this is a great week for you to, reach out to people that you care about, to socialize, to get yourself out there, and to utilize that energy for communication and collaboration with people in your community. All right, and for Cancer rising, this energy is happening in your 12th house, which is it's the house of secrets. It's the hidden house. It's the house of the subconscious. And so this is a time period this week where a lot of subconscious messages can be coming in on below the level of your normal awareness. And so this could come through dreams. This could come through visions, impressions, downloads, just a sense that something is going on. Really important messages could even come via 12th house institutions or involving 12th house institutions like hospitals, monasteries, temples, spiritual retreat centers, ashrams, prisons, brothels are under there. Anywhere that is hidden away from the normal day-to-day world is a 12th house institution. This could also bring secrets to light, and that's a big one with this CAZIMI energy of the Sun conjunct Mercury. And so if you feel like there's something going on that you're not fully aware of in your life, if you feel like somebody's holding information from you or withholding information from you, on Tuesday, especially Tuesday morning if you're here in the United States, you can get some clarity on what's being withheld, on what these secrets actually are. They can come to light, they can come out into the open, and so you can see them, acknowledge them, and deal with it. And so that's part of the energy for Cancer as well. All right, and then for Leo and for Leo rising, this energy is happening in your 11th house, and so you might have a lot of mental energy and mental output going into your communications with your friends, your social networks, or certain groups or organizations that you're a part of, networking for business purposes. There might be a lot coming in terms of emails, phone calls, text messages from your social circles this week, and it might be a little overwhelming and a little confusing. You might have somebody saying one thing, somebody else saying a different thing, and you don't know where to direct your energy. Or maybe you have to make an important decision that affects the group. And this is a week where, you can get that clarity. If you're thinking and overthinking and there's too many ideas and too many scenarios playing out in your head, Tuesday morning is a really great time where you can get that clarity, where you can make that decision, and where you can make sure that it impacts the group in a positive way. If there's an important conversation you need to have with your friends, with one of your networks, that's a time when you can deliver it. If you want to do some sort of important webinar or campaign or something where you're putting information out for public dissemination via the internet or connecting with people through social networking, that's a time when that would actually work a little bit more easily for you. Otherwise, it might be a little bit jumbled at the start of this week. So thinking about those themes and what that means for you will help you to direct this energy in the most appropriate way. All right, and then for Virgo and for Virgo rising, this energy is happening in your 10th house of career and public reputation. And so you might have many thoughts going on and many ideas as to what direction you want your career to head into, or you might be thinking and overthinking and ruminating about an important project that involves your work, or an important conversation that you need to have with your bosses or superiors or people that are involved in your career. And you might kind of be a little bit overthinking it, which is a Virgo thing anyway. And so you might be a little bit too perfectionistic in the way that you carry out projects or communications involving your work and your career this week, or you might be overthinking it. You might be feeling anxious about it. You might be ruminating on, these different ideas or these different topics, or you might be really trying to rehearse this conversation that you need to have in your head, and it could be driving you a little bit toward anxiety or toward getting burnt out. And so if you wait until Tuesday, especially in the morning, you might get some clarity on this. You might get some clarity about what it is that you need to say, or how you need to say it, or how you need to carry out that important project, or what is the right decision for you to make for your career path moving forward. For Libra and for Libra rising. Oops. Okay, so this is happening in your 9th house, which is the house of beliefs. It's the house of foreign travel. It's the house of people from foreign cultures. It's the house of higher educational pursuits. It's the house of knowledge that you gain through experience. And so this is a time where you might be thinking or overthinking important issues that involve your ethical or moral value systems, your belief systems that create a framework for reality, your relationship with God. This is a time where you might feel very busy and have a lot of energy, and especially mental energy, around higher educational pursuits. So if you're in school, you might have like exams coming up or an important paper, or you got your grades back and they're not what you think, and so you're worrying about that. So there's a lot of worry around higher educational pursuits. There could be also a lot of worry and a lot of overthinking and overplanning when it comes to travel arrangements this week. And so if you are kind of all over the place trying to decide about your summer travel plans, or trying to make plans for an important endeavor involving teaching, maybe you are somebody who's a teacher who's going to be leading some sort of workshop or something, and you're overthinking and overplanning, and you're feeling very anxious about what it is that you're going to be presenting. If any of these are applicable to you, then this is a time where, on Tuesday you can gain some sort of clarity, and you can figure out exactly what the right decision is to make and how to utilize this energy more effectively moving forward. If those aren't applicable to you, this is at the very least a very excellent time for you to sit and to gain wisdom through contemplation. So, sitting there and just asking for clarity, asking for direction, asking for a bigger picture and a broader perspective on a problem that you're facing, you can get that information much more easily on Tuesday. All right, and then for Scorpio and Scorpio rising. So this energy with Mercury in a conjunction to the Sun is happening in your 8th house, which is the house of it's the house of power and control issues. It's the house of deep intimacy. It's the house of things that go on behind the scenes. It's the house of deep traumas, fears, wounds, insecurities. It's also the house of joint finances, debt, inheritance, other people's money, taxes, all of these types of things. And so issues around taxes, issues around joint finances, issues around money in general could be coming up for you this week, where you're thinking and overthinking and ruminating on it and making yourself very anxious over trying to plan and prep for whatever it is that you need to accomplish when it comes to finances, especially these joint financial endeavors. Even things like investments could be involved in this energy as well. And beyond that, it could be that this energy is highlighting and bringing up a lot of your deep-seated fears and insecurities around your ability to control your own situation, to control your own life. You might be wanting to plan and overplan some sort of event or something that's coming up for you because you're afraid of it's kind of like a fear of uncertainty and wanting to control everything. And so if any of these are the case for you, and in general too, even if you aren't overthinking things about finances, you can get a really important inspiration or some sort of important communication or information that comes in on Tuesday that helps you to deal with your financial situation more effectively moving forward, even if it's not an area that's problematic for you. But for those who have debts, for those who have taxes to pay off or whatever it is that's coming up for you, this is a time where it's very beneficial for you to engage with that energy, to make that communication, to mail that letter, to make that phone call to that creditor on Tuesday morning, because it's going to go a lot more smoothly. You're going to be much more clear in what you need to say and how you need to say it, and you're going to be much more effective. And at the very least, this is a good time to gain insight and clarity into the decisions that you need to make around these themes moving forward. And then Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. This conjunction is happening in your 7th house, which is the house of romance. It's the house of marriage. It's the house of long-term committed partnerships. It's the house of all close personal relationships in friendship, business, or otherwise. And so this is a really important time where if you need to have an important conversation with somebody, now's the time to do it. If you need to make an important decision about a contract or an agreement that's going to be affecting you, especially if it's affecting you and your partner, then now's the time where you can get some clarity on that decision, where you can make sure that it's the right thing for you to do. You might be thinking and overthinking and ruminating on conversations or on situations involving your marriage partnership or long-term committed relationship or an important friendship, and you might not know what to do. It might be causing a lot of stress or anxiety at the start of this week. But this period on Tuesday is a time where you can get clarity about how to deal with this situation moving forward. And so that's what's going on for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising. It's an important time to have important communications and to deal with anything involving contracts or agreements that you're making with other people. I wouldn't jump into it, on Monday or earlier than that. I would wait until you have time to really think it through and to gain that sense of clarity, especially on Tuesday. And for Capricorn and for Capricorn rising, this conjunction is happening in your 6th house, which is the house of work and daily routines. It's also the house of health and your health habits. And so there could be something really important going on in your work where it's causing you a lot of anxiety or stress, where you're thinking and overthinking important projects. There could be a lot of communication coming in through your work this week that could be overwhelming to you. Maybe you're trying to take time off and relax or do something else, and you're not able to do that because work is calling and texting and emailing you. This could also be you thinking and overthinking and stressing out about a health condition where maybe you can get some clarity on what it is that you need to do, what the next steps are to take if you sit with that on Tuesday. Or if you communicate with a doctor or an alternative practitioner or whoever it is that you're choosing to work with on Tuesday, you might get a more clearer picture of what's going on instead of stressing out about it. You can get some additional help and some additional guidance. And this is a really good time period on Tuesday to connect with coworkers. This is a really important time on Tuesday to make important work-related phone calls, emails, communications. And this is a time where you can get clarity on anything that you're really stressing out about and having anxiety over involving your work, especially your day-to-day work experience. And for Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this is happening in your 4th house, your 5th house, which is the house of romance. It's the house of love. It's the house of play. It's the house of pleasure. It's the house where you go to do the things that you love to do because you love to do them. And there could be some mental blockages or stress around, maybe some sort of romantic endeavor. Maybe, you're thinking and overthinking things when it comes to your romantic partnerships. Maybe you got a weird text message from the guy that you're seeing and you're just really ruminating on it and it's stressing you out and you don't know what it means. And maybe you can get some clarity on that on Tuesday. This could also be you stressing out over plans involving children. So there could be a little overthinking and ruminating on things, and kind of make a little overkill, you know, when it comes to trying to create plans that support your children, or that allow them to engage in play, or that allow you to engage in play with your children. This could be you overthinking something involving an important hobby, an important creative pursuit, involving your business if you're an entrepreneur. And so this is a time on Tuesday where you can sit back and sort of get the information and get that sense of clarity by thinking things through around that time where Mercury is CAZIMI. The other thing that could be helpful is to write down your ideas around that time period, or to engage in important communications with, you know, if the first scenario applies to you and you're having issues with romance and you're not quite sure where you stand, this is a time where you can get clarity by just talking it out and asking them. You know, what's going on here? Where is this relationship going? What did that weird message mean? That type of thing. And so all of these things are a potential for Aquarius. And then for Pisces, and for Pisces rising, this energy with Mercury CAZIMI is happening in your 4th house of the home and family. And so this is a time where you might be thinking and overthinking and ruminating on an important plan or project involving your home, involving your place of living, a contract or agreement around your property. Maybe, you know, a mortgage or a lease or something like that might be coming up. And maybe you're kind of overthinking it and you're stressed out about how you're going to make this work. This could also be involving just feeling really busy and overwhelmed with your family situation and what's going on at home. And if that is the case for you, instead of like ruminating and dwelling on it and stressing out about it, you can, you know, table it. And then on Tuesday, especially in the morning, that's a time where you can ask for guidance and clarity, and you might receive it, or you can have an important discussion with a family member that can help bring the clarity that you're seeking. And so this is a really important period where you can get that clarity, where you can calm down the mind, and where you can see things much more effectively, and you can have really great ideas that come through. All right, everyone, so that is the forecast for all 12 signs. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you like these forecasts, please do subscribe to my channel. Click that little red button wherever it is. And again, if you want to sign up for my newsletter, you can absolutely do that to get some more free information about what's coming up for you in the astrology, and also to get $10 off your first reading with me. So that's always an option. The link is down in the description below. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.